And
What is it? So what is it?
EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and essentially what it is, and I actually thought it was a load of tosh when I first heard of it. It's where a therapist will make you follow their finger back and forth whilst you're thinking of a particular trauma or something that's playing on your mind.
Oh, come on, I saw Paul McKenna do that once as well.
Well, indeed.
Okay.
But actually, it started off by a psychologist called Shapiro, who went for a walk in the woods one day, and she had some problems playing on her mind. And at the end of the walk, she'd sorted the problems out. She thought, my God, how did I do this? Was it because the parallel tree trunk somehow distracted my gaze and helped me process it through and had some effect on my brainstem and so on? And so she put together this therapy called EMDR, and her vertical finger mimics the movement of the parallel tree trunks, and people have done brain scans and tried to figure out scientifically how it works, and they have figured out that you don't need the finger, you just need some kind of alternate stimulation. It could be flashing lights, it could be tapping knees. And you're right, I did see Paul McKenna do something similar, and I worked out that what it is to do with a certain amount of low-level distraction when you make the brain figure it out themselves. And I'll explain it to you. The fact is that when something bad has happened to you, you end up with two levels of emotion. You end up with your logic. In other words, yes, I know it's bad, or, well, it's not that bad, but I just thought it was bad. So that's your logic. And then you have your emotion. And emotions, as we all know, are not logical. So you can have a very strong emotion about something, even though it's not that logical. So, for instance, you could have a phobia. You can have, and as you know, you can have phobias of anything. You can have phobias of cups, for instance, let's say. And you know that it's not logical to be afraid of that cup, but you can't help it. So your logic and your emotion is different.
It's interesting. There's a thing. Go on. You're in flow there.
You can't help it. And if you think about it, every time you think about it, because the brain does anything to avoid anxiety, you feel anxious and then you push the thought away. So what processing therapy does is it makes you think about it long enough for your emotional anxiety to process down to your logical anxiety. And that's basically it in a nutshell. But you can do that for anything that you've gone through. You can do that for traumas as a child, because however nasty the trauma was, however horrendous it was, it's gone. It's in the past. And so you have to be able to process that down so that your logic can then take over. Once someone has their logic back, quite frankly, they don't need to see a therapist anymore. So the job of the therapist is to put the person back in control. It's not to tell the person what to think, which is what a lot of therapists try and do. It's to put the person, the individual, back in control of what they want to do.
Do you know, there's a lot of neuro-linguistic programming techniques that you can also use, and I became a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming several years ago, and to be frank, I don't often sort of share that because I've shared it today, ironically, but I don't often share that because...
Is there anything you're not a master in, actually?
No, plenty of things I'm not a master in, but it's nearly everything I'm not a master in. I don't think you can master everything. But I did this master practitioner's course in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and I sometimes, as I said, the reason I don't actually recommend, I don't say I use it, because I use aspects of it, just like any tool. It's just part of your life's toolkit. You know, the more stories you have, the more scars you have, it means the more life you've lived. And I think some people get, you know, in terms of something so deep that can open up a can of worms, people get qualified in this, and there's no particular authorization to qualify you, by the way. It's not like becoming a doctor. So you can, you know, someone says, oh yes, I'm one of 50 master trainers who can teach you. You then become a master practitioner in NLP because you've done a 2-week course, and then you think you can go into people's heads. I think is wrong. You need to put a lot of work and a lot of hours in to actually get to that stage to be able to be responsible enough to actually help someone. But there are certain techniques that you can do and you can apply yourself, and you can find them on YouTube. and it's something called submodalities, and it's to do with, for example, if you have a phobia, or let's say you don't like peas, for example, okay, but say you like ice cream, hypothetically, and you actually have to look in, and there's a whole list of questions that you need to answer, but I'm just going to use one. So if you see if you like ice cream, and it says, how do you see ice cream? Is it in colour or in black and white when you see it in your head? And you say colour. And if it just so happens that that part of it is peas, and it goes, how do you see that? In colour and black and white, I say in black and white. Then what you need to do is you actually need to change the picture and turn the peas into a coloured picture. And there's so many other aspects, to do with your senses. So it could be your feelings towards it. It could be your, what you see, what you taste, all those sort of things, how you see things. And it's like, do you remember? No, I can't think. It's just escaped my mind. Damn, I'm going to have to come back to that one. And that's totally broken my flow. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna look at submodalities for next week for you, so I can give you a clear understanding of that. It's been a while since I actually did look at that, but actually, this is what I just try to remember. Do you remember a song, for example, when you were a child, and you have an association with that song? And it's like, it could be the first relationship you ever had, and you had a song together, and the relationship broke up. Every time you hear that song, it actually changes your mental state into that place where you feel down. So we all have certain anchors to certain experiences in our life and things like that, and we just need to be able to flip the script on that. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Anything more you want to cover on this subject, Theo?
No, I think it's an immensely important one, and I think it's something that people can really benefit from. So what it is, as we said, is self-awareness, and if necessary, you need to work through some of your childhood experiences, and there's no getting around that.
So look, before you go and decide to go and see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or
you can think it through
or a
yourself
life
sometimes.
coach, Google it. There's plenty of information on Google. There's plenty of information on YouTube. We live in a content-driven world right now. It's readily available to us. If you want a starting point, there's your starting point. You just got to ask the right question to Google to actually be able to look for the answers you want to.
I'll give you a tip. Sometimes you can avoid therapy by thinking through things yourself. And the way you do that is you don't avoid difficult thoughts from the past. And one thing to help you is to try and distract yourself. So for instance, you can go to a busy coffee shop. And what happens is the amount of background distraction keeps your brain busy enough to help prevent it suppress the negative thoughts, because the brain automatically suppresses negative thoughts, and if you're distracting it, it's less likely to do that. So either go for a long walk until you're able to figure things out, okay? You must continue until you figure it out. You don't stop because it's unpleasant, because then it stays locked and it can even get worse. Until you figure it out. So that's something you can do by yourself for free.
There you go, guys. I hope you got some value from that. We will go into a little bit more detail on what we talked about today, in some cases of the Sedona method. We'll also talk a little bit about submodalities and some of the things I actually probably learned from NLP that you could actually apply yourself. Again, you can Google a lot of these things.
And remember, it's not numbness, it's not expression of anger, it's not acceptance, it's actually understanding and forgiveness. That's what you've got to get down to in order to unlock and go forwards in a healthy manner.
So in the meantime, while you're figuring that one, go into a field, take your shoes off and scream your heart out. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.